Welcome. I just wanted to jump on today and talk about overwhelm and how many of you feel overwhelmed in your business and your life. And for if you don't know me, I am Leslie Liondas, and I help other accountants, bookkeepers, and tax pros get off the hamster wheel and actually start building a business that they actually love. And the thing about a hamster wheel is that's how many business owners actually feel. And accountants, I think, feel this the deepest because we go from deadline to deadline to deadline. And I don't care if you're an accountant, bookkeeper, or tax pro, that's the way it feels. And so if you think about we're sitting at the towards the end of May right now, so we're a month after the tax deadline, and many of you are still suffering from actual burnout. And the burnout was because of the overwhelm that you felt during tax season. Now it's after the April 15th deadline, after the April 30th payroll report deadline, after the state filing deadline, and here we are. But you still are struggling because you pushed everything you needed to do until now. And now you just don't want to do anything. And so this cycle continues over and over. And I've talked to so many of my clients lately who have talked about how in May, they just can't seem to get it together. They can't get motivated to get the work done. They can't get motivated to do anything. They're just like, they keep trying to like make themselves do it, but they just can't push themselves to do it. And, and I thought this was just a me problem when I was feeling this way years ago. But the more people I've talked to in the accounting space, because I've been talking to so many of you lately, that I see a common thread here. And it's because you can't think anymore. Your brain is literally telling you it's time to step away. Yesterday, Len literally told one of our one-to-one coaching clients, you're starting vacation tomorrow because she's like, I just can't think. And what I want to tell you about overwhelm, when you're so overwhelmed, you're so deep in it, you can't see it. You can't see what is right in front of you. You can't see the answer. You can't see what you need to do. But what's really at the root of overwhelm, the deep root is it's a pricing problem. And I have tried every way I possibly can for that not to be the root. But the more people I talk to, the more I see it's a pricing problem. And I don't care if you're an accountant, bookkeeper, tax professional, or any other business owner. Most of the time, the problem is pricing. I've talked to doggy daycares. I've talked to construction. I've talked to home health care. I've talked to hair salons. You name it, I've probably talked to them. And the core problem was pricing because the more clients you take on, the more you have to service. And if your pricing is too cheap, this is what it causes. So, and that's where what causes the majority of the overwhelm is because we're trying to hire people, but we can't hire competent staff because we have a pricing problem. We can't build systems, we can't build processes, we can't delegate sales, we can't delegate marketing, we can't all the business cycle that I've been talking about for months. We can't do all the things. And I even did a chart. And if I had thought about it before this live, I would have brought it up. But there's this whole cycle of the business, all these departments. And as a business owner, that is actually, we're filling all of those hats. So those are actually all places that people should be at some point in time. They're all things that need to be done in a business, from sales, marketing, client delivery, you have client relations, you have networking, you have just all the things. But the one piece of the pie over here that most people are focused on is delivery. So then either none of the other stuff gets done or it's just shot at, just literally shot at. So if you think of what you're doing in your business that is causing the overwhelm, there's number two that causes overwhelm. So, because of all the things that we're doing that I just described in the business, but a lot of times what's causing the second problem is we're keeping everything here. Everything is in our heads. So, I've studied a lot on how the the brain and how the brain works, but the more stuff we try to store in our brain, the more overwhelmed we feel. So I'm going to go back about, I guess, 5 years ago now, before we had a clear system of all the things that needed to be done in the business. I felt so freaking overwhelmed. And it wasn't even because of the work. It was just the amount of stuff I was keeping in my brain. I can't forget to make a doctor's appointment for my kid. I can't forget to make a vet appointment. I can't forget to do this. So I'm constantly, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, over and over in my brain. Or I'm trying to remember how I did something previously. So I'm like going through my brain like a little filing cabinet. How did I do this? How did I do this? But then once I got it out into a system, into a process, it was so freaking freeing. And I know there's so many task management systems out there, and they are not all created equal, but it should work as your brain. Because when you're trying, if you stop and think about what you think about all day, you're shifting your brain over and over and over and over again. But if you literally can get all of that mess and like literally, I know we used to call it in the when computers first came out, we called it a defrag, where you just kind of had to defrag your brain and everything got out of your brain. It's so freeing. And you don't feel like you're doing this over and over and over again, whether you have a team or not. But even if you get everything out of your, like, what is it that I need to do in the next 2 weeks? What is it I need to do? And then you just get it on a piece of paper, a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, or Word, Excel, whatever. If you just start brain dumping everything that you keep saying over and over in your brain, and you start saying that to yourself, and you get it out into something, it like releases it. It literally just releases it. So I know when we implemented ClickUp, there was so much that my team didn't even know that we did because it lived here. It lived in my brain, which then turned affected pricing because they didn't even know we were doing it. So if what I want to urge to you is two things that are causing overwhelm: pricing and also keeping everything up here. Because the more you try to remember, the worse you feel. And that's where we replay all these thoughts before we're trying to go to bed. That's why you can't go to sleep, because you're replaying them over and over in your brain. But what if you could get it out into a system somewhere? And I'm not saying it has to be a sophisticated piece of tech. At this point in time, whatever you have, use it. But once I took what all I had in my brain and put it into a Google sheet and said, these are all the things that I need to do, then eventually when I found the piece of tech, I could put it in a piece of tech. Then I could build people's jobs. And that's where most business owners don't think ahead of time is, what is the job I'm actually hiring for? Because when you're hiring, you have to figure out what am I hiring for? Because when I hired people, I hired three people at the same time, but then they would come to me, what's next? What's next? What's next? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So how can I tell you what to do? Then it was, okay, go do this. And they come back, oh, how do I do that? So then it was like a ping pong game. It literally was like a ping pong game. It was exhausting. So this fed into the overwhelm. But if I would have taken a step back and said, okay, what is it that I need off my plate? And how can I do that? It would have been to put it into a Google sheet and said, this is what I need off my plate. These are all the things I have going on. These are all the things I need to do. Then I look at who can do them, what type of person needs to do them, And what processes do I need to build so they don't come right back to me? So the number one thing I also hear from business owners is I answer questions all day long. And the reason is because it all lives here. Every bit of it lives here. So even if you have a client and you hire an experienced tax person, you still have all of the information for that particular client here. You know it. You know that. But even if they're an experienced tax preparer, they can't do it because there's so much information that you still hold. And so until you get the information out of your head, it feeds this cycle of overwhelm over and over again. Then eventually, overwhelm leads to burnout. And when you're burnt out, that's where some of our clients are right now, is they're flat out burned out. Give yourself permission to remove yourself for a few days. Take a vacation. Just step away. It's okay to step away. So if you are feeling overwhelmed in your business, in your life, I want you to step back and say, what is causing it? Because is it, I have too much going on here, or am I priced too cheap? And it's probably both. To be completely transparent, it is probably both. And it's okay to ask for help because a lot of times we started our business for a specific purpose. And as it grew, things changed. You changed, life changed, the world changed. So it's okay to ask for help because you don't have to know everything. So if you feel like you're in this cycle of overwhelm, drop it in the comments. If you don't feel comfortable dropping it in the comments, feel free to DM me. This is what I do is I move people from a cycle of overwhelm to where they actually can feel and see again. Because like I said, Lynn literally sent one of our clients, what do you have to get done today that you can take off a week, week and a half? And she was like, these three things. She said, do those three things, give yourself permission, take off. And she did. But she just had she had to have permission to do it because she has so many people asking her for so many different things, including her team. But she had to hear, you have permission. So I'm giving you permission to take some time away. And if you need help with this, feel free to DM me and let's talk about it. No sales, just a conversation. Because sometimes we just need a little direction. And I will be happy to give you that direction. So if you have questions, comment below. And I hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your day.